class, I want to go ahead and talk to you about the Literature Circle novel study that you are going to be doing. If you were in class on Friday, you've already heard most, if not all, of this information. However, we had several students absent. We have several students who were satellite and didn't hear the explanation. And you may still have questions even after the discussion on Friday. So I wanted to kind of walk you through all of these requirements, what the expectations are, just to make sure we are completely clear on what you will be doing the next several weeks of class. So if you look at the requirements, it says that you must read your novel, complete literature circle written work and discussion with your partner or group, complete modified complexity wheel project, and write a paragraph about theme. Okay, so let me go over what all of that means first. Obviously, read your novel just means read your novel. As you see on this page where you are going to create your plan of action, I have every date listed up until the time when your novel should be finished, up until all the work is due, and you are going to be figuring out with your partner how much to read each day in order to get done when you need to get done. Okay, you will see that I've left space for you to decide that you need to read some of your novel on Tuesday as part of your homework. And then, of course, in class, you will need to have the amount of pages that you're going to read planned for Wednesday. It is up to you and your partner or your group to decide how many pages you need to read each day. If you want to start working on the written work as you go, that is up to you and your group. If you want to finish the novel first and then start working on the written work that goes with it, that is also fine. Okay? So, you must read your novel. Now, the next thing is to complete literature circle written work and discussion with your partner or group. Okay? First of all, let me backtrack a little bit and say that everyone is going to be paired with at least one person. Okay, so this is a group assignment, a group study of a novel. Most people are probably going to just be a part of a pair. It is possible that you could be in a group of as many as 4 people, but that would be the max, and I'm not sure yet whether that's going to happen. Okay, so you've noticed that I've called this a literature circle, and that, again, one of the requirements is to complete literature circle written work and discussion. Okay, now a literature circle usually is a bigger group. It's usually 3 to 4 people. And the idea behind a literature circle is that the small group of students are reading a novel, and that they come to class each day with insight about their reading, and they have a discussion with each other. Okay, so we are going to use this idea of a literature circle. You are not required to have written work or discussion every single day. And part of the reason for that is because you may be reading as little as, 6 pages of your novel. So I'm not going to require that you do each of the roles and the written work and the discussion every day. You will notice down here that I've said that your literature circle needs to happen at least once every 2 chapters. Okay, so again, that's going to be your responsibility. I will double check it when I look at your plan of action, but it'll be your responsibility to calculate how many pages you're reading each day, and then say, okay, we'll be done with chapter 2 here on Friday, so we need to include our literature discussion. Okay, now what do I mean when I say literature circle work, and discussion. Okay, like I said about literature circles, it is typically a decent sized group, 3 to 4, and each person has their own responsibility. They read the same pages, but each person focuses on different aspects. Okay, so you actually received a packet of literature circle roll printouts to begin your novel. You will definitely need more copies. Okay, so the roles that we have for our study is the discussion director, the vocabulary enricher, and the literary luminary. Okay, there are many different roles, many different things that literature circles might do, but these are the ones that we are going to use for our literature circle. Okay, so another thing you're going to have to decide within your group is how to divide your literature circle roles. Okay, and especially if there's only 2 people, and we have 3 roles, you're going to have to decide which roles you both do. Okay, you might decide that one person does the discussion director, one person does the vocabulary, and then you both come up with passages to discuss. You see that this worksheet has a place for 4 passages, so maybe one of you comes up with 2 and the other one comes up with another 2. You may decide to do one person is the discussion director, one person is the literary luminary, and you both find vocabulary words. Okay, that is going to be completely up to you and your partner. I am really open to you guys figuring out what is best, how you want to do it, just as long as you do it, and you do it the amount of times required for your novel. Okay, so if you have 10 chapters and you have to do literature circle every 2 chapters, then you will have 5 literature circle discussions. Okay, you'll be working on these pages as you read, and then you will prepare to have those discussions on the appropriate day after the right amount of reading. One thing I almost forgot, you do need to switch your roles at least once. Okay, so in other words, if you decide on a certain person being the literary luminary for your first literature circle discussion, they should not be literary luminary for every single discussion. Okay, at some point you need to switch and take on a different role. That way you both, or all 4, or however many people are in your group, everyone gets to experience a different role and get kind of a little bit more of a well-rounded experience and thought process, and look at the text a little bit differently each time. Another thing that I would like to ask, and this is actually something that I did not mention in class, try to plan your literature circle discussions for an at-school day, Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. That'll be a lot easier for you guys, to not have to worry about making a phone call or getting together, or whatever you need to do. And then it also helps me because I would like to take part, or at least listen in on at least some of your discussions. However, if you absolutely have to schedule one for a Tuesday or a Thursday, just based on where your reading falls, how many pages you need to read a particular day, when you need to get things done, if you do need to do it on a Tuesday and Thursday, that's fine. But try, if you can, to put those discussions on a Monday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is the modified complexity wheel project. Okay, this is another part of the required work that goes along with this literature circle novel study. and you received both the wheel itself and the packet where you answer the questions listed on the wheel. So actually, go ahead and get out that wheel and that packet, because there's another thing that I did not tell you in class, if you were in class. I mentioned that, obviously the paper says that it's modified. I mentioned that there were going to be some questions that I would not have you complete, and I could not find my piece of paper where I had listed those, and I found it, so I need to tell you what questions to not do. Okay, so let's take a look at the complexity wheel. You should have received this piece of paper right here. There will be a piece that goes on top of that, like this. And that is another thing. If you could call, text, email me what color you would like for your complexity wheel. I will print that on the closest color of paper that I have for you, so that you can have your own personalized wheel. Okay, but if you look at this wheel, there are different questions in different categories. Okay, you start with your very basic just remember questions. These are the questions that are very surface level, very plot driven, just recall questions. And you're going to move up the spectrum to, understanding the novel, applying information from the novel, analyzing and evaluating, and then creating something new. Okay? So you're kind of working up from just basic to higher level thinking about your novel. But here are the questions that I need you to mark off, both on your wheel and then on your packet. Okay, I think on your packet I may have actually written these things already, but if you would, I would appreciate if you would double check. On the remember section, mark through number 3. I am not going to have you do the vocabulary. Okay? You will do all of the understand questions. On the apply section, number 1 says, what questions would you ask the author? Mark through, write a letter to the author. Okay? You are still going to come up with questions for the author, and there is a place for that on the answer packet. However, there is not a place for you to write the letter, and I don't want to take that step. I want you to just come up with your questions and put it on the answer sheet in the appropriate slot. Okay? I'm going to have you do all of the analyze section. On evaluate, you don't necessarily have to write this on your wheel. You can if you would like, but I'm going to let you choose 2 of the 4 questions. I'm not going to specify which 2 that you have to do. I am just going to require 2 to be completed, and you get to choose whichever 2 you want. And then on the create section, mark through number 2. You will do numbers 1 and 3, but not number 2. Okay, so this is your wheel. You will get another piece of your wheel, and then your answer sheets look like this. Okay, now this is the written work that I mentioned, that you can choose to do things as you go in your novel, or you can choose to save it all until the end after you have finished your novel. Okay, whatever works best for you. It might be that you want to do a couple of questions as you go. The remember questions are pretty easy, but you want to save most of it for after you finish reading. That is again going to be up to you and your partner to decide. Now, this leads us to this note on integrity. Okay, it's not as relevant with your literature circle work because everyone is doing different work for each discussion. But this complexity wheel, everyone has the same questions, and you and your partner are doing the exact same written work about the exact same novel. But what I need you to understand is that you need to make sure that your answers are your own. Okay? They are written in your own words, in your own voice. Yes, you will be discussing the book with your partner. You can even talk about specific questions together. But you shouldn't be one person writing the answer, the other person copying. You shouldn't say, let's say this, and then both have the same answer. You can talk about it, you can discuss it, but when it comes to actually writing down your answers, they should be in your own words. Okay, if they are not, that would be considered cheating. Okay, it's one thing to be reading a novel together and discussing it. It's one thing to be sharing answers, just word for word with each other. The last piece of written work you will have for this project is the paragraph about theme. Okay, and we are going to do that exactly the same way we did our paragraph for The Hobbit. You will have received the graded paragraph for The Hobbit back by that point. So you will know if there's anything that you did incorrectly, anything you need to change, anything you need to make better. But you will receive the same worksheets to work through for that. You'll receive this, fill in the blank page, the page for text evidence, and then you will be required to type that paragraph in MLA format. So this is actually a piece of work that you probably do need to save until after you have finished the novel, because you're not going to know for sure what the themes are. You can probably make some, educated guesses. You'll probably be able to tell over the course of the novel, but really you won't know for sure. You won't be able to write good theme statements until you know the conclusion, how the novel ends. So this is something that, while you might want to keep in mind quotations that you think are important, this is probably something that you will need to save for after you have finished the novel. So the literature circles, the complexity wheel, and the paragraph is the written work that you have to plan when to get it done, how to get it done in time. The only other written work you will have is you will have tests and quizzes. But those have already been put on the plan for you. So you need to, as you're planning your novel and your work, and when you do what, be sure you take a look at the dates listed for quizzes, for tests, and for all of your work to be finished. The same day that you should have your novel finished, you will take the test. No, you will take the quiz. And then the day that all of your written work should be done, you will take a test over your novel. So be sure you get those dates written down. Now, other important pieces of information to know and to remember is that, first of all, you must have something to work on each day until the due date. Okay, so be sure that you are dividing up your reading and your work evenly. Your goal is not to get finished as early as possible so you don't have something to do. Okay, now I know that there are quite a few students in our class who are good readers, who love to read, who can read books fairly quickly. If any of you guys feel that this is way too much time to read your book and to do this work, then we can talk, we can have a conversation, we can work together on figuring out a different timeline and something else to do. Okay, that would be something to discuss with your partner first, though. If your partner does not feel that they can do things that quickly, then you need to work with your partner. But if you have any interest in moving at a quicker pace, you will need to talk to me about that. My expectation is that you have something to work on each day in class, and if you don't, then you will get points counted off for your daily grade. So if that is a concern, if you feel like you can read 2 books in this amount of time, if you feel like that you need to do something differently, then talk to me about that ahead of time before it actually becomes a problem. Okay, now speaking of that daily participation grade, okay, you will get a daily participation grade for being prepared for class and for working during class. Okay, being prepared for class means that you have everything you need. You actually have your novel there with you, because regardless of whether you are reading that day in class or having a literature discussion or completing written work, any of those things you're going to need to have your novel with you. Okay, and then any other needed materials like, literature circle worksheets, your complexity wheel, anything like that you should have with you daily. Okay, and then working during class, I'm going to be monitoring, I'm going to be observing and making sure that you and your partner or your group are doing what you're supposed to, doing what is on your plan of action. If you're supposed to be reading, you should be reading. If you're supposed to be having a literature discussion, I should see you talking and having a conversation. So just make sure that you are using all of your time in class to the best of your ability. Okay, and along those same lines, be prepared for me to drop in on your group at any time. Okay, obviously if you have reading scheduled for that day and you really need to use your time to get that reading for the day finished, I probably won't bother you. But if I see a group that doesn't appear to be on task, or if I see that a group is having a literature discussion, I may want to drop in and listen to how it's going, what you're thinking about the novel. I want to be available for questions if you need me. So just be prepared each day so that if I'm there with you, working with your group, you can have an educated conversation about your book with me as well as with your partner. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that that's everything you need to know about the overall process of the Literature Circle novel study. Okay, each day in class, once you have your plan of action, you will follow that plan of action. Some days you may be reading, some days you may be doing written work, some days you'll be doing literature discussions. So for the next few weeks, we really won't be doing much, if anything, as a whole class. You will be working with your partner. You will spend some time in class just reading individually or with your partner. And I will be available as much as you need me to help. So that leads us to actually creating this plan of action. Okay, this is what your homework is for Tuesday. As well as reading any pages in your book if you feel that you need to get that jump start. If you actually have your book, I know that there are a few groups who still need to decide which book they're going to read, kind of finalize that decision. If that is you, then obviously you aren't going to read any on Tuesday, and that's fine. Okay, but your homework for Tuesday is to plan, is to create your plan of action. So that means that you will need to get in touch with your partner, whether it be that you meet up somewhere or talk on the phone, text, email, whatever. But you are going to create your plan of action. And this handout is laid out for you to do that. Every day up until the due date is listed for at school and for at home. And then the important dates that you need to be aware of are already on this schedule for you. Okay? Some things to keep in mind. Your plan of action should be specific. Okay? Okay, I don't want to just see that on Monday, February 27th, you're reading. I need to know specific page numbers. I don't want to see that on Wednesday, March 1st, you're having a literature circle discussion. When you're having a literature circle discussion, I need to know specifically who has what role, what chapters the discussion is over, those sorts of things. If you are going to spend a day working on your complexity wheel, don't just say work on complexity wheel. You need to specifically tell me what numbers, what sections you think that you will be able to work on and answer fully. Okay. That being said, this is somewhat tentative. If you run into any problems where you think you can work on numbers 1 through 5 of the complexity wheel for the remember section, which actually those aren't valid numbers anyway, that's just an example, but say that you think that you can do certain written work on a day, and once you get to that day you find that you don't have enough information from the novel yet, you can monitor and adjust and switch days, change how much you read each day, make changes as needed. Okay, that's fine. But I want you to have looked at what is required of you, looked at the amount of time you have, and have a well thought out tentative plan that you're following. Okay, and then of course the last thing is that this plan of action must receive teacher approval. So that would be on Wednesday, our day back in class. You should have these filled out. You should know what you need to read on Wednesday so that you can give these papers to me so that I can check them. You can still be busy working on your novel, reading your novel, while I go through and make sure that these plans of action are appropriate. And then of course I will make a copy of that plan of action to have for myself. I'll give you your plan of action back, and then from then on out we will be working on our novel study. Okay. If there's anything that I left out, I will get that information to you. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call, text me, email me, anything that you need. If you guys have any trouble coming up with your plan of action, I'd be happy to help with that. So just keep in touch if need be. But otherwise, this is what we're doing. I hope that you guys enjoy doing something a little bit different like this in class. Getting to read a book that you chose and, work closely with someone. But really kind of doing this work individually and doing something just a little bit different than what we have been. Okay, here's a quick recap of what we've gone over about this assignment. Now, I'm sorry, I know this has already been a pretty long video, but I'm actually doing this to help those who were in class on Friday, although this could be a good review if you watch the whole video. I do highly advise that if you were not in class on Friday that you watch the whole video to get an in-depth look at the assignment. This is probably going to be most beneficial to those who were in class and just want a quick run through of what we talked about. And then if you have any questions after watching this, you can go back in the video and find the specific sections where you might find the information you need. Okay, so here's a recap of Literature Circle novel study. First, you have the Literature Circle itself. Remember that this is a discussion based on previous reading. You need to complete your role handouts before the discussion. That is preparation to actually have a conversation, not to do the work as you talk and as you go. Written work and discussion should happen every 2 chapters, so that's up to you to plan, to look at how many times that those discussions need to happen, what days. You must switch roles at least once. In other words, you will not do the same written work every time you have a literature circle discussion. Nobody should be the discussion director every single time. You should have multiple roles that you complete for different discussions. And then try to plan literature circles on at-school days so that I can listen in and so it's easier for you. However, if you really need to have a discussion on a Tuesday or a Thursday, that is fine. Just go ahead and put that in your plan of action. Next, you have the modified complexity wheel. Be sure to let me know what color you want for the top part of your wheel. You can call, text, or email me that information. I would like to have that on Tuesday so I can bring it to you on Wednesday. The modifications for the complexity wheel, I did not go over those in class. I did not have that information yet, or with me at the time. You need to mark out the remember question number 3. On apply number 1, you need to mark out the write a letter to the author. You will do the questions, you will not do the letter. On the evaluate section, you are only going to choose 2 of the 4 questions. There are not specific questions I want you to answer. There are no questions you mark out. It's just that you're only going to do 2 of them. And then you also need to mark out create question number 2. Be sure that your answers to these questions are in your own words. Even though you are reading your book with a partner or with a group, your answers should not look exactly the same. You can talk about the book, you can have a discussion, you can even have a discussion about that specific question, but the answer needs to be written in your own words. The last piece of written work that you will do before the due date is the theme paragraph. That will have the same requirements as the theme paragraph about The Hobbit. Those handouts will be provided. It is probably best to save this for the end after you have read your entire novel, so that you can have the best understanding of the plot and the themes as possible. However, it could be helpful to keep track of significant quotes as you read. Other important information is that there will be daily participation grades given, so be sure you come to class prepared, that you know exactly what you're supposed to do each day and you do it. I can see that you're working and I can see that you have all the information, all the materials that you were supposed to have. Remember that I may drop in on your group at any day, at any time, to monitor your progress, to listen in to discussions, to ask questions about what you're doing, anything of that sort. If you have any questions, if you're having any difficulties or you have any concerns, please feel free to talk to me. I want to be there to help you and make sure that you're successful, make sure you're getting the most out of this project as possible. If your group did not receive a novel on Friday, please let me know by Tuesday which novel you chose so I can have those pulled for you on Wednesday. I know of at least 2 groups that had not had a chance to pick novels yet. So please do that as a pair and let me know so that you can have that novel as soon as possible. These important dates are listed on your plan of action sheet, but make sure that you are aware, make sure you put them in your planner, and make sure you're working towards these goals. March 3rd is the end of the quarter. You need to bring everything you've completed to class so that I can see what you've done and give you a grade on the literature circle novel study for the 3rd quarter. March 17th, you should have your novel finished. You should be done reading. There will be a quiz given that day. And on Friday, March 31st, all work should be completed. It will be turned in that day, and you will be given a test over your specific novel. Okay? Hope everything is clear. Sorry it's been so long. If you still have any questions, feel free to contact me with those.